What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on Second City Gridiron. Follow at Second City Gridiron for all your Bears news. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch all of our fair shows. If you get the audio-only versions, Spotify, iTunes, etc. Do the same. Like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. Look up the great articles on Windy City Gridiron at WC Gridiron on social media. Making monsters, Bear and Balance, Bear Banter, the list goes on and on. Back-to-back shows tonight. I'm at the Real Evan Mac on social media. I'm also Evan Mac in real life. As always, joined by my co-host. He's working on becoming an NFL referee after last night's debacle, that showing in the Bears game. His favorite Diane Keaton movie is Baby Boom. It's Ross Reed, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, he just bought that the faux hair Skims panties for his wife too. I need a third one.
That was supposed to be a surprise.
Maybe it's for you. I don't know.
And I might be partial to First Wives Club too.
Turn it off, April. Good times there. He is at Ross Reed. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Bears win on a Tuesday. Look at this. Here we go.
Yeah, we're starting to stack some wins here. These shows are becoming more fun. Shout out to Lester and Taylor who were on before us. Taylor's filling in for JB, who's walking the streets, or I should say roads of New Zealand right now. His trip looks amazing. But he sent us a message yesterday saying, hammer that Bears money line, and boy, was he right from halfway across the world. So shout out to him.
Jeez. Insane. So good to get 3 wins in a row. It's been a while. That's right, Ben Johnson and company. Yes, get pumped for it. And we will be talking Bears throughout the show, and we'll end with some other NFL news, of course. But we'll dive into the recap of the game and then what to look forward to in the Saints game coming up this Sunday. But man, suck it, Troy Aikman. This is great. When you go and especially thinking about the narrative going into the game of last year, and then the Hail Mary, and this was very personal for this Bears team, and the way it looked like throughout the game, where it looked like it was getting away from the Bears for reasons we'll discuss. A hell of a performance. But to start, on the recap tip, it was one windy, rainy night in Maryland. It looked like the elements were definitely going to be a factor. And you knew that Jake Moody was going to be stepping in for Cairo Santos, who's nursing that thigh injury. He was a late scratch. So immediately he gets on the board for the Bears in a big way for 48 yards. And, that story of Jake Moody is so cool. Obviously getting the game winner and kicking 4 big field goals, just 1 block. Who knows if that wasn't just a line drive, low driver, then, maybe he's 5 for 5, but very consistent and in a tough place to kick. I will say that it was a gift, certainly, that there was no Terry McLaurin. Kyler Gordon getting back finally was big. But the run offense, it was like the run offense. The narrative was the run offense for the Commanders going against the worst run defense in the league. And the defense really stepped up. I think Dennis Allen just got creative and stuck to his guns. And really, there were some gifts in that first half as far as the Jaden Daniels interception for Brisker, the Krosky Merritt fumble. That was huge. But, still, once again, to start the game, it was similar narrative to that Raiders game where you go ahead and you see that Caleb and company can't quite capitalize. They're still working on starting fast. And, the cliches ain't about how you start, it's how you finish. But we would love to see some touchdowns early on as Bears fans in this instance, but it was different, with that, again, going back to Dennis Allen, played with a chip on their shoulders since that Detroit game, creating turnovers every game. I know that was a gift again from Jaden Daniels, but getting the fumble recoveries when you need them, it's huge. Like Sweat with the forced fumble to give Caleb Williams another chance. DJ Moore tweaked his back in that first half of the game and then kept gutting him out. But, Ross, in terms of that first and second quarter, when you think about how the Bears performed, just what really jumped out to you? I know we could talk about the line, we could talk about that run game, talk about the defense, but to you, what jumped out?
Yeah, I think the offensive line really came to play. Obviously this was Theo Benedict's first start at left tackle, and I thought he held up pretty well. But for me specifically, it was specifically the right side of the line. I tweeted out yesterday, Darnell Wright, that might have been his best game as a pro. and he really looked like an all-pro out there. And you saw, we're talking about the first and second half, but as the game went along, they really leaned towards the right side and running on that side because he was getting out in space and mauling people and just moving people out the way. I thought Jonah Jackson had a really solid game too, which was good to see after he had a shaky start to his season. I thought Drew Dahlman even played a lot better as well. Yeah. So credit to that offensive line for in those sloppy elements. And everybody was worried coming into it. It was like, all right, are the Bears going to be able to run the football effectively to essentially try and win this football game? And they did. We saw some ticky-tack calls. You mentioned the officials at the beginning, at the top of the pod. And, we saw some really ticky-tack calls that I thought really killed the momentum of some drives. In particular, to me, the Colson Loveland phantom push-off, whatever that was for offensive pass interference. Sure. It had a big play call back. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the defender, the entire secondary was dropping back into a cover 3. They were literally falling back and going into zone. And, did Loveland need to make contact with him? No. But it's still a really shaky ticky-tack call. And we saw that throughout the evening, specifically against the Bears. They were able to move the ball in offense. I think they're still leaving some points on the table. I know, Visel Joe is in our comments here, and
what's
Caleb,
up, Joe?
Yeah, Caleb was a little inaccurate, erratic last night. So was Jaden Daniels. I mean, listen, from our sofa, it's very easy to say, well, they need to hit these throws. It's 50-degree weather, not cold, but most importantly, it's humid, it's That's wet. True. It's just kind of it's just an ugly game, and that's going to happen. I expect a cleaner game from Caleb at home, assuming that we get decent weather at Soldier Field this Sunday. But the Bears did shoot themselves in the foot a couple times, and he did miss a couple throws. But all in all, I'm just happy with the fact that this offense is at least starting to move the football. In particular, on the first drives of the games too. That's really important. Them able to come away with points, even if it's just 3 points. But that's really important. So they're building. They're getting a little bit better week by week, and it's always fun to get better and build when and still win a football game. And so hopefully now you could keep stringing together some football, some wins, and you can keep on improving this offense and improving. The defense has been opportunistic, 11 turnovers in 3 games, which is just really remarkable stuff. Yeah. And, even with the mistakes that the Bears had yesterday, they, at the end of the day, played the cleaner game, especially within the last 6 minutes of the game, and they were able to steal a win.
I think, in terms of that first half, neither quarterback really jumped out besides that the huge, the run that put the first touchdown on the board for Caleb was great. And then Jaden Daniels just, again, there's a reason these guys were the top 2 picks in the draft a year ago, and how great they are. That Jaden Daniels throw just to put them within, 7 points or 6 points rather, of the Bears in the first half to end the half was huge. And then Washington went on their run. Again, going back to the referees, you pointed to that Loveland call as being pretty egregious. Nashawn Wright, talking about the defense, he's got maybe the toughest assignment on that defense to fill in step into Jalen Johnson's shoes, so to speak. And again, against Deebo Samuel and all these vets, or all these weapons, I should say, at the disposal of Washington, a couple, again, you point to those penalties. One may have been a phantom face mask. Same with the contact. But ultimately in that second half, you look at how it looked pretty bad for the Bears there, and normal. You harken back to those Eberflus teams that would kind of quit last year, and you're like, oh boy, this just seems like there's no way they're going to dig themselves out of it. But then they go ahead and they do. They go ahead and respond right away with that. The great drive from when they scored with Swift to go back to 20 to make it 22-24, ultimately failing on that 2-point conversion. And again, you saw carried over from the first half, just things that of note with Ben Johnson. Like, going for it on 4th and 1 and with the time expiring, or that was at the third quarter, I think, when you didn't necessarily have to, and the ball goes through Caleb's hand, and then eventually leads to a Commanders touchdown. It's stuff like that where you figure it would add up and just be too much for them to overcome. But the defense responded. The offense, again, you can't say enough about the offensive line and how different they are this year, and how and DeAndre Swift, for that matter, just has great blocking in front of him. Not only, from all pro season type guys like Darnell Wright, but Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney, obviously huge. Theo Benedict, just, great. You're making us forget about Braxton Jones right away. But DJ Moore throwing blocks, and I know it was quiet for the tight ends for the most part, but you still got to do your part in the trenches there. And ultimately, again, special teams is huge, and it was iffy too, where you see some bigger returns given up to Luke McCaffrey or whoever's running back there. But ultimately, when you think about it, it's so funny that the score is the same as that Raiders game, and you go down the field after a very opportune fumble from Jaden Daniels and Krosky Merritt, where they get the ball back. You still got to drive, 80 yards about to get in a good position, and they did it with relative ease, which was great. And you can point to that Zacchaeus drop where there's, detractors from Caleb Williams saying, oh, he was inaccurate all night. Like, what about that? That was a perfectly designed play. Just drop the ball where he's not normally dropping it. Ultimately, obviously, things to work on, and you certainly think if you're Ben Johnson, it's not a perfect game. But what Ben Johnson said in that speech and the post game speech, in celebration that I played a clip from, was that it's a team win, and it's going to take all three of those phases and those big opportune plays. Like, sometimes it's going to be a grind, like a 9-play, 10-play drive. Sometimes it's going to be, you get a 55-yard pass from Caleb to DeAndre Swift, and you're going to go the extra mile there. So it was huge. And Jake Moody, again, going back to him getting cut from the 49ers and stepping in, kicker's a tough position, man, in that environment. And again, that's not a gimme anymore. It's certainly, we've seen many of these similar types of kicks blocked in other games earlier this season. So a heck of a win for Jake Moody and company. Now, this was that tough one right off the bye week, right? And the Bears were 1-10 after the bye week for the past, 10 years or whatever it was. And now you won 3 in a row. Now you're playing some trash teams too. So this is where you sort of go on a run, and people say it could rattle off 4 more. So I loved it though, man. It was an incredible win. When you think about just the character and the resilience, that was huge.
I did too. I think not enough is being said today. That Washington team, they have Super Bowl aspirations. They went to the NFC Championship game last year, and yes, they're missing Terry McLaurin and they're missing a couple guys, but for the most part, they were intact, and their defense was pretty stout. And the Bears went in there in a hostile environment. They had this blackout nonsense, and you have to relive the horrors of the Hail Mary game from last year. And they get the guy that the special guy that always sings the national anthem. Like, that stadium was juiced up yesterday to really stick it to the Bears.
Anthem.
Yeah, he did. He crushes it every time. Yeah, he crushes every time. That guy is phenomenal. But the Bears went in there and they kept their composure the entire game, and they stole a win. And a win like that is the difference between you winning 7 games or maybe winning 9 or 10 games. And a win like that is, are you on the cusp of making the playoffs, but you're not going to hit it? Or can you sneak in and maybe potentially get the 7th seed? And I don't know if people are taking a look around the NFL, but take a look at the standings throughout the NFL. I don't even know who's good. We're going to talk about the rest of the league right now, but there are not a lot of teams right now that are essentially lighting it up. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 4-1. The Colts are 5-1. Those are really your best record teams. Other than that, in the Bucs too. I actually think the Bucs are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. But you look around the league, and the same time yesterday, Buffalo lost their 2nd in a row to the Falcons. They got smoked by Bijan Robinson. There's just a lot of parity right now in the league. So you need to just find a way to win football games and figure it out and grow from there. I think the big thing for me, my biggest takeaway yesterday was, as a coach, Ben Johnson is really starting to grow. His offense looked a lot better. I think the run game looked a lot better. I think even the pass protection, even though Caleb was pressured at times, looked good. Some of the routes looked good as well. There were some drops. There were some BS penalties. I thought the fade pass to Roman Dunze in the end zone that should have been a touchdown was just a thing of beauty. The Zacchaeus throw, right, and the route from basically you're almost in your own end zone that could have went for 90 yards if he doesn't drop that football. Or if that's Luther Burden, he probably takes off and he does go for a touchdown there. So I think Ben Johnson has gotten much better. But the crown jewel of the game and where he's learned even from week one was what you said. After they got the football back from the fumble from Jaden Daniels, the way that they were able to methodically get down the field and still rip off chunks on the ground in poor weather and get Jake Moody close enough to where that can be basically a chip shot for him, right? You didn't want anything like where he got the field goal blocked at 48 plus. You needed to get him as close as possible, and they were going to get there. And Ben Johnson says, that right tackle over there, that guy might be an all-pro one day. And you know what? I'm running that football right behind him, and we're going to win this football game because that guy's an all-pro. And DeAndre Swift, go that way. Go that way. He's going to open it up for you. He's going to get us in field goal position. And, oh, by the way, another underrated play, he calls one pass play as they are already in field goal range to see if he can maybe sneak away and get a cheap touchdown or a chunk of yardage. But you can tell he told Caleb Williams, if it ain't there, you get your butt on the ground, in bounds, you keep this clock moving. We're already in field goal range. So he has coached smarter, especially in these high-pressure moments, which I think he's learned from week one. And again, you just keep stacking these wins, you keep building confidence. These guys keep coming together. Now I think they can actually, when they're in these tight games, they believe they can win, which is a complete 180 from what we saw last year with the Matt Eberflus-led Chicago Bears.
No question. This is in those situations, it was very reminiscent of the second half, all after that Hail Mary game where especially the NFC North games were real close, but then just everything started turning south real fast. And you talked about Ben Johnson and how he has grown, and especially that last drive. And you talk about the longer drives to win games this year. Just super impressive. When the balance is certainly not perfect by any means, but he does have the benefit. And again, it's huge where a lot of other teams aren't having to deal with that, having to fill in the left tackle spot. You lose your all pro, all NFL corner. You got to throw another guy in and hope that he sticks. Both those guys, played huge reps for them. And then finally mixing in, you talked about Luther Burden getting more involved too. I believe you had a tweet about him being in Zacchaeus' place, trying to throw to the middle of the field for him instead, or Loveland. It's going to come with time, but Luther Burden, man, you've seen something special out of him right there. He's got the skills to really make your jaw drop. Those cuts, you just juking out the entire Washington defense twice on that one long play of his that went for 37 yards. Unbelievable.
Yeah. 9 out of 10 wide receivers in the league catch that football and they go out of bounds. Instead, what he does, he makes two cuts. He puts the defense on roller skates again on a slick, wet field, and he gets extra yardage out of that. That guy is a dynamic football player. Again, I'm trying to be patient, but you see the vision of what he can be. He's a second-round pick. He should have been a first-round pick, and you're like, you need to get him more touches. I want to see him more in the action. I like OZ as a football player. I like Zacchaeus a lot as a football player, but there's something dynamic about what Burden brings to the table. And I'm pretty sure as we get more into the season, wide receivers in their first year usually tend to do much better in the second half of their first season. He's going to get more touches. I'm kind of done with the Devin Duvernay experiment on kickoff returns, and I would let Luther Burden. Yeah, I would let Luther Burden let it rip as well in that part. Anything you can do to get the football in his hands consistently is all the more the better. And Loveland too. Loveland he's coming back from a hip injury, and I know everybody's looking at Tyler Warren on Sundays, and you're like, well, what the heck, man? How come our first round pick tight end isn't doing that? I think the Bears do have a little bit more embarrassment of riches at that skill position spot than what the Colts do. But he's going to get there. He's got to find a way to use his physicality as an advantage in his athleticism, but not too much where he's going to get a ticky-tack call like he did yesterday, because he is a rookie and officials are going to kind of treat him like that until otherwise.
And again, you talk about the game balls going to Jake Moody. Ben Johnson presented the other to DeAndre Swift. You could give that game ball to the whole entire offensive line as well. But DeAndre Swift, where we thought about this being perhaps the weakest position for the Bears, now having some just a better sort of feel for where the starting offensive line is at, and putting Theo Benedette in there, moreover, replacing Braxton Jones, you're more confident going forward there and leaning on the run, and then that'll open up Caleb Williams in the pass game as the time goes on. But again, in slick conditions like that, you saw so many times where Darnell Wright's hits one block and then goes second level to another block on those run sweeps. It's huge to the point where you wonder when those 4th and short situations, or there's a 2-point the 2-point conversion. You've run the rock so well. Don't go away from it, man. Like, really, you see around the league, it's, if they're not going to ban the tush push, then just like emulate something along those lines. It's not that difficult to get those 2 yards we've seen too. So it's interesting to see Ben Johnson's development there. But on the note of the offensive line, Theo Benedette here to stay at left tackle, no question. And now Ozzie Trapillo and Braxton Jones. There were 4 tackles active, just in case, God forbid anything happened. But Darnell Wright, having missed time and looked like he had that extra time, he had the brace on the elbow, really great form. And again, one of the best picks of the Ryan Poles era by far. Great work by the line.
It was great work the entire night. I thought even the interior, we don't mention Joe Thuney's name enough, because you don't need to, because he's just a consummate pro. The guy's a future Hall of Famer. But you got to give him a shout out too, because he keeps that position in lock the entire time. The fact that you don't have to mention his name is a good thing. That means he's holding it down, and that guy's been an anchor as well. I thought, what was a shaky, especially start of the season for Drew Dahlman, was a lot better yesterday. I thought he was able to use his athleticism and get more into space, especially in the pass protection. And so he played better as well. And I think you could tell they got back in the lab after that bye week and kind of tweak some things with the protection. And you have to also wonder how much of Braxton Jones was holding back what Ben Johnson wanted to do in the protection, in the run game. Because even when they ran to the left side, Benedette was significantly more athletic and out to the second, out on the edge and getting to the second level than Braxton Jones was. Braxton Jones was just on his knees and on his back far too often. So I think that switch allowed Ben Johnson to get more valuable in the run game. And credit to DeAndre Swift. He's had his critics and his detractors since he's been in Chicago. He's not the most athletic guy. He's certainly not the most fast guy. But what he does well is when he makes a decision and goes, he actually plays and runs hard. And that's all you need to do. That's exactly what he did on that touchdown run, which was a pass. That Troy Aikman said the Bears got lucky. It's not lucky.
That was crazy. Crazy comment to make on national TV like that.
Swift made a hell of a play. He makes a play. He breaks a tackle. He gets past another guy and he just takes off running. That's what dynamic football players do. Marshawn Lattimore, should he have made a tackle? Probably, sure. But you try and tackle DeAndre Swift in space again with a slick jersey and stuff like that. DeAndre Swift made a football play, and give him credit for that. It wasn't luck. Right. So credit to him. He deserved that game ball yesterday, and let's hope that he continues to grow on it. And listen, we saw Calvin Ungai get some carries yesterday and kind of churn out some tough yards. I think he's going to get more action as the season goes along. We even had a Roschon Johnson sighting yesterday. He had 1 carry for 6 yards.
Yep.
1 carry. I think as you discuss your goal line situation, those short yardage situations, I think that's your guy right there. I would use Roschon Johnson up the middle, run right behind Joe Thuney's ass. Just run right through there and get yourself a good 1 or 2 yards on those short yardage situations. No need to get cute. Run in, go in I formation and go in single back formation and use Roschon Johnson a little bit more. So all in all, it's a good win. The Bears are over 500 right now, and we're getting into the October part of the season. Also, it's nice to get that Monday night game out the way. They had 2 Monday night games before Halloween, which I think is just completely absurd. And then you start looking at their schedule going forward, and like you said, you got winnable games on there, but also they got home games on there, and they have noon games on the schedule. Thank God we get noon games back on the schedule. And I think maybe Bears can get into a groove a little bit. And you're shooting for at least 9 wins, and
all noon games until Thanksgiving. Yeah,
absolutely.
You got some real losers over the next 4 games.
You got to take advantage. You have to take advantage. Just like you can't take anybody for granted on your schedule, right? You got to take advantage and still win these football games.
Yeah, and just my final notes on that Bears Commanders game. Certainly Tremaine Edmonds, as much as you're paying him, he earned his paycheck. He was all over the field, played the run, played the pass really well. It was a roller coaster. Weather was a factor. TJ Edwards, that was huge. Noah Sewell, I think he went into concussion protocol. So you had to really lean on those starters. And credit to the defensive line coming after Jaden Daniels as much as they could. It's so hard to get after him. They had a big sack, from Gervon Dexter with a sack and a half on the day. That's a win against Jaden Daniels when he is as elusive as he is, trying to keep contained. They were just a hair away from a couple more many times. But, that the whole narrative with Troy Aikman it's just ridiculous, thinking about when you're supposed to be mostly neutral in your commentating. Ben Johnson said, quote, "It sounded like from that game the other night, a few people weren't particularly pleased with how we were winning right now. I woke up this morning, my kids were watching the second half before school, so I heard some of the commentary." I like this coach a lot. I like this Ben Johnson personality coming out. The clip of him just, cursing silently. We can't hear who he's cursing out or know who he's cursing out, but we see through the clips is pretty great. And now, again, going on to a very, very winnable game against the Saints, who are reeling, who don't know what they're doing on offense, basically a shadow their former playoff selves from several years removed from there. Alvin Kamara, probably the best player on that team, old, and Chris Olave, guys like that. Again, you don't have anyone to throw to. So looking to, on the lakefront Sunday, looking to capitalize on this 3-game win streak and really open up the playbook, lean on the run. Certainly just a confidence builder when you think of the team you're playing against. You can't look past the Saints, that's for sure. But very encouraging when you think about the Saints and then those back-to-back road games, Ravens, Bengals without Joe Burrow. You'll still have to face Lamar Jackson, and they're going to be hungry. But then the Giants after that. I'm interested to see if they can get out to that hot start and again play like they did in the last home game against Dallas, and really just put up points early and often.
Agreed. You're back at home now, so you just went through 2 tough road games, a tough in-conference game on a Monday night. Granted it's a short week, but all aside from DJ Moore, you came out of that game yesterday for the most part healthy and unscathed. And now you want to go home. And I think this is where you really want to start to, like you said, open up the offense a little bit and start to get some things going. Start to really get some guys going, continue with that running game, continue to get, I think, all 3 of those running backs opportunities, because I do think this is a game where all 3 of them can showcase and shine a little bit. And in addition to the wide receivers, I really want to see the Bears get the tight ends going. And right now, for the most part of the season, Cole Kmet's been relegated to mostly as a blocking guy. Loveland has had some opportunities as well. But I think this is the kind of game where you can really start to open up the middle of the field and use your tight ends more and allow them to get more advantages. The defense, I think the defense is going to go out there and try and continue what they've been doing, which is take the football away.
Set the tone.
Set the tone, like you said, take the football away. They're going to lean on that crowd on Sunday. I'll be there for the game. I'm excited for that.
Me too.
Yeah, there you go. I think the Bears fans are, you talked about Ben Johnson. Everybody's feeding off of his energy right now. There's a surliness, there's a feistiness, There's a little bit of nobody believes in us kind of situation right now. You can kind of see it in his tone. Even Caleb Williams today was retweeting TikToks of people saying that the Commanders were going to win. And he had a post on his Instagram page. He's getting a little surly too and feisty. I like it, man. Like, this is Chicago, where this is kind of how it's supposed to be. And I think the Bears fans really respond to that. And now it's like, you don't want to feel overly confident, but you do want to have a little bit of swagger and a mean streak to you. And, I think it was a tone that Ben Johnson set all the way back in training camp. How long ago does it feel where the Dolphins were complaining that the Bears were too physical with them in training camp? Well, the Dolphins season's over already. And the Bears are one game over 500 right now. We might be a week or two away from Mike McDaniel getting fired. And the Bears are in a good spot. So, they need to play more of a complete game on offense is what I'm looking for. And I'm hoping that it happens this week. And you get some similar to a Cowboys type of situation from we had a couple of weeks ago, but a better running game and the tight ends getting more involved.
Yeah, tight ends getting involved is a given. Other than that, it again has been very balanced. If you can lean on the run game like you did again and win in very convincing fashion, that's huge. As weeks progress, we know that Grady Jarrett didn't play. Austin Booker has still been out for some time. Kyler Gordon in his first game back, wasn't doing too much, but that again, he had the one fumble recovery, I should say. But other than that, trying to get involved where he can. You just want to continue to stay healthy. You want to have that consistency along the trenches, especially too. I think that, again, when you get those bodies in that depth up front, that you're going to be able to really cause problems for the Saints, especially, it's a completely different offensive line where I feel like Washington was really set up to protect Jaden Daniels. Now, again, and likely not the same weather as Maryland. I think it's going to be like 60, partly cloudy, just perfect weather on the lakefront, sort of crisp fall weather for football. And on the note of DJ Moore, you just really hope that he is all right. He was held in Washington just to be observed. And I think that they were pretty mum on his status. He, besides that injury or the play where he got injured, and I think the play before they kicked the field goal, he was on the field pretty much that entire time, throwing blocks and playing through whatever he was going through. Even though he is not necessarily the top dog in that offense and Caleb's top target, very vital for this team and how you need all hands on deck. So hopefully he can shake it off. But if he is indeed maybe taking some time off, maybe taking Sunday off, then you'll feel confident in Zaccheaus and Luther Burden and Rome Odunze, again, just getting robbed of his 5th straight game with a touchdown in ludicrous fashion, where just everybody was so confused. That might be what I remember the most of that game, is just taking that and then the drop, and just bad officiating all around. You never want it. We'd be having a very different conversation. It would be a very different tone to the show, I feel like, as a result, if they don't pull that out. But again, so different from Eberflus, and we'll give a prediction for the Bears Saints game at the end, but I like it. Now Jake Moody goes back to the practice squad, but he could be elevated back, and now you got a kicking controversy. Look at all this right now. Cairo's looking over his shoulder, but he did. I think Moody said he was happy that Santos traveled with the team, and you got another buddy to talk kicking with. God forbid.
You do.
There.
Yeah, and shout out to Jake Moody again last night. He deserved the game ball. He was great. He was one of the most dynamic kickers in college history that we saw. He was very erratic once he got to San Francisco, but the skill is there. This guy's a third round pick. So, funny side note, the Bears have a 3rd round kicker and a 4th round punter on their roster right now. But when you go into Soldier Field, you still feel confident or comfortable, I should say, with a guy who is used to kicking in that stadium and in that environment. And I think this is still Cairo Santos' job until he physically can't go anymore, or he does become a little bit more erratic or something like that. But it's nice to have a guy like Jake Moody on the practice squad where you can call him up and he can do what he did last night in a pinch. We're always going to remember the Jake Moody game. We'll see if he gets another shot at this, depending on how Cairo's quad responds this week. And let's hope that at least in this Saints game, we don't need too many field goals anyway. You want to kick some touchdowns. You want to hit some touchdowns in this game. So we want to score some points. We want to hit pay dirt and not have to rely on either kicker to kick 3 or 4 field goals in this game against the Saints, and especially one at the end of the game to win it.
1-5 is the record of the Saints as they go into Chicago. Yeah, they're 0-2 away. I like it.
That's the second now straight week that Caleb plays another quarterback from his draft class, right? He's this week was Jaden Daniels. Now we get Spencer Rattler. So, Caleb, that's another thing. He's pulling some receipts a little bit. He knows. He's heard some things. He's heard Jaden Daniels might be the best. Drake May might be the best. I mean, Drake May kind of has it right now. But now people are talking, good things even about Spencer Rattler compared to where he was drafted at. So it's another opportunity to put some bulletin board material out there and put on a show and retweet some TikToks and throw some Instagram posts up on Monday and put Superman in one of those cool photos that he does with another nondescript Drake song that Caleb likes to use.
Nondescripted that Ross is a big fan of. Yeah, tremendous. He needs to maybe pump the brakes on social media a bit for him, but never change, Caleb. Very impressive win for the Bears. And talking about the NFC North, the only division with a winning record throughout. Green Bay with the 3-1-1 record, Detroit 4-2, Minnesota 3-2, now Chicago 3-2. So let's switch focus to the NFL. And again, any given Sunday, and you think divisional games are really wild because we saw the Giants and this new Jackson Dart-led team and Cam Scatterbo with 3 touchdowns just whoop the Eagles and take it to them 34-17 on a Thursday night game. Very impressive. And you talk about those contenders and pretenders in this league, and Colts escaped with a win over the Cardinals without Kyler Gordon, but Jacoby Brissett almost balled out and won the game. But they improved to 5-1. Chargers hanging around 4-2. They beat that bad Dolphins team, but that was close. And the Patriots pretty good right now, 4-2. They beat the bad Saints team, but Drake May is looking really good through 5 touchdowns in that game. I mean, a 4-1 team led by Aaron Rodgers. They beat the Browns in a divisional game, 23-9. The Browns are absolute just garbage, but again, it's a must-win game. Jaguars and Seahawks was pretty spicy. The Seahawks roll on 4-2. Jackson Smith and Jigba, just really great. The Rams are hanging around, and they took advantage of no Lamar Jackson and who couldn't put up anything but a field goal in the first quarter. They improved to 4-2. You talked about the Buccaneers and how good they are, man. And that's a pretty good 49ers team. I know they were without Brock Purdy, they were without George Kittle, but you got to beat that team in front of you. And at home, they improved to 5-1. Baker Mayfield just with some ridiculous moves in that game, ridiculous throws when he's dealing with injuries of his own. Egbika went out in that game, and Chris Godwin has not been able to get on the field. Mike Evans has been out. He's just finding a way, and he's maybe an MVP front runner. And the game of the week was perhaps that Chiefs-Lions game where the Chiefs hosted the Lions. They improved to 3-3. They needed that win, 30-17. Mahomes back in some rarefied air, 3 touchdowns, and also that Monday night game, man. The Bills and the Falcons. I thought it was going to be a pretty interesting one, and Bijan Robinson exploded for 170 plus yards on the ground. They beat the Bills, and Bills are all of a sudden 4-2, but they're getting the bye at the right time to get healthy. And Falcons improved a little bit. So, what did you notice that really stood out in week 6 that you liked? What didn't you like, Ross?
I think we also need to go back to even the Thursday night game, which was Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah, that's where I started.
Yes, smacking the Eagles in the mouth. That was insane, man. That was nobody saw that coming in, and all of a sudden the Eagles with a couple losses, and they don't look very good as well either. Their offense. I mean, nobody's really looking dominant right now to start the season. In terms of the kind of the things that I saw. I mean, you talked about the Patriots right now. Now, granted, it is the Saints, but what Drake May has been able to do in the passing game, His deep ball is absolutely beautiful. It's one of the best deep ball passers in the league right now. But even the short stuff that he's doing, has been able to protect the football, stay out of harm's way, not take the hits, and he's got that offense rolling right now, really without a true number one wide receiver. It's been really impressive what he's been doing. The Steelers are I feel like the Steelers are playing like 1985 to 1992, like just old school, line them up, smash mouth football. Aaron Rodgers doing all the intermediate stuff, and they just keep on winning. We get the old man bowl, the icy hot bowl on Thursday night. You get Aaron Rodgers versus Joe Flacco, which is, as somebody who just turned 44 years old, I can't even imagine these two guys going out there and playing 4 quarters of football at their age and at this point. But God bless them. And I think to read the Panthers. The Panthers are 3-3 right now, and they're 3-0 at home, and they beat that Cowboys team who had a big win the week before, and that Matt Eberflus defense is just absolutely atrocious. The fact that you're letting Bryce Young and that offense go down there and do what they did. That was the Ted McMillan breakout game. We were kind of waiting to see when it was going to happen. This guy's a top 10 overall pick, and he finally had it. He went out there and he went for a pretty solid game. He had a couple touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. I still think Bryce Young needs to get him the ball more, but still game. And also, of course, Rico Dowdle. He really took offense to being let go by the Cowboys, and he ran on them 30 carries, 183 yards. He had another 56 yards in receiving, and he just absolutely broke them. And, on the flip side of it for them, I kind of feel bad for Dak Prescott because he's having a pretty special season right now. And what he's been able to do without CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens continues to be awesome as the de facto number 1 receiver. And his defense just is not helping them out at all. Dak Prescott might throw for close to 5,000 yards this year and 40 touchdowns, and they might win 6 games because that defense can't get out of their own way. So this is going to be an interesting week because, there's some injuries. We have some rough injuries. Fred Warner is out for the season. A couple more
49ers
injuries.
can't catch a break. Yeah.
49ers cannot catch a break. But at some point, you start to wonder, when are some of these teams going to kind of, pull away or start to really, show who's going to be the cream of the crop? I still think everything is very tight and condensed right now. So you look at this Sunday, you got Rams and Jacksonville, right? Those are 2 teams that feel like they're pretty evenly matched, and even like Philadelphia and Minnesota is another one. Giants, Broncos, Colts, Chargers is another fun one too. And don't even don't sleep on the Commanders and the Cowboys. That's a divisional game, and I feel like that can even go either way as well.
Yeah, in terms of Week 7 starts with a rivalry with the Steelers and the Bengals, and Bengals just trying to stay relevant and tread water. Until, with Joe Flacco, until Joe Burrow can come back. Same old story. And the icy hot bowl, as you mentioned, which is fantastic. Aaron Rodgers, 10 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, leaning on a pretty good defense to beat 4-1, 2-0 away. They're in a pretty good, interesting spot to go 5-1, if they win that game on Thursday. And then, of course, we got another London game in the Rams and Jaguars and neutral turf, so to speak. But both teams, very interesting, and 4-2. They got the winning records, had some solid wins so far. You talk about the first firing of the year in Callahan, the Titans, they're just awful. Talk about the worst teams, and you just feel for poor old Justin Fields and the New York Jets that are just absolutely the laughing stock of the league, and just how bad it is when you think about how bad things, were for the Bears just a year ago. They never were this bad, where you think about there's no direction. Aaron Glenn's, laughing at a reporter's question about potentially making a change at quarterback. And you talk about coaches that should be fired. Perhaps he's on the chopping block soon. You're wasting, a wide receiver's potential and Wilson and Garrett. And just you think about those. It's just demoralizing. It harkens back to those, and the Browns are also bad too. You harken back to those bad Browns teams, and all perennial all-pro players, when you're wasted in talent on that franchise, it's really just got to be a different level of demoralizing when you've been so competitive. Even no matter how much you get paid, you still want to be winning that game, or winning games. But you talk about Eagles, Vikings, that's huge. I think for the Eagles to and the Vikings to get back on track, they really want to come out with a win. Those afternoon games, I think I like the Colts and the Chargers for the game of the week. I know you said no one's really blowing out teams, but this Colts team is just really impressive. The way they have carried themselves through 6 games, one loss, but Daniel Jones just really impressive. Jonathan Taylor, so good on the ground, and whoever Daniel Jones is figuring to throw to, it's just working really well. And then like you talked about, the injuries are tough to manage. So hopefully we get some stars back into this next week. But I'm kind of sick of the Monday double headers. I don't know how you feel about it. It just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't track for me. It's one thing to stack when we get into those Saturday, Sunday games and having 3 games on Thanksgiving, 3 games on Black Friday or whatever.
Yeah,
doing that, but the 2 Monday night games, I don't know, miss me with that. It was enough to have 3 double headers so far, and even not in the opening week. It's just bizarre.
Yeah. Well, then also it takes away a little bit from the games on Sunday, right? Even this past Sunday, you had like 7 games, so you have 1 London game. So you got to wake up at 8:30 in the morning to watch a London game, and I don't want to wake up at 8:30 in the morning to ever watch Justin Fields play football ever again. So and then you get 7 games at noon, and then you only get 3 of them in the late window, and it's like you need to have one of those Monday night games. Should have been the 4th game in the late window. That late window this week was a snooze fest. I would have selfishly rather have seen the Bears played on Sunday at 3:15 or 3:30 rather than a Monday night game. That doesn't end until darn near 11 o'clock at night, especially when there's another football game going on. We're not a baseball podcast, but I also still want to watch the MLB playoffs too. And I like to flip back and forth between a football game and a playoff game. And so there's just, it's spread so much. There's all these international games and the Monday night games, and then you got a Thursday night game. And so, I'm with you. The double Monday night game again this week, there's a late one. There's Houston at Seattle that doesn't start until 9 o'clock at our time. I can't watch a minute of that.
Yeah, I love the Buccaneers Lions matchup. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That's a perfect 6 o'clock game, but it's like, my goodness, a 9 o'clock Texans versus Seahawks, game. I got a job and I got a family. I can't stay up until midnight watching a football game on a Monday night.
Need my rest.
Mm-hmm.
I get you, Russ. We're getting up there. Let's finish up with some sad news and in the music world. You got to lead with this. D'Angelo was just a shock, and unfortunately, his family announced his passing at 51. And I harken back to like Questlove talking about working on Voodoo, and what an album that I can never get sick of. I feel like it's up there in that upper echelon of just fantastic no skip albums, undeniably classic. I was listening to Send It On in the pre-show. The same can be said about Brown Sugar, and just his catalog was really incredible as a pioneer of R&B, who is not in the limelight as much, but I feel like I'll always just regret not being able to see him live, and that power he had on stage and behind a microphone. Just so many classics. So sad. And then I'm going to ask you your favorite Diane Keaton movie for real after you talk about D'Angelo.
Yes, D'Angelo was probably the godfather of neo soul, in my opinion.
Yep.
I think he was the guy that made neo soul sexy, and I also think that he had issues with being a sex symbol. That was never what he wanted to be. He just wanted to go out there and put out great music. He was a pretty quiet and shy guy. And he talked about when that iconic and viral How Does It Feel video came out. If you've never seen that video before, it's just him standing there naked singing one of the best songs, R&B songs of all time. But he what he got from that, he said it kind of put him a little bit into a depression. He kind of went away and didn't want to be that guy. But I was listening to Voodoo over the weekend, and it still holds up, as does all his projects, even to Black Messiah. That when that came out was fantastic as well. Devil's Pie is I think a classic song, and
incredible beat. Yeah,
the beat in that's a beat that actually Cannabis passed on, and D'Angelo grabbed it and took it and turned it into a classic as well. So he's going to be missed. Just from a human standpoint, he had a relationship with another R&B singer, Angie Stone, who passed away tragically from a car accident this year. And so they had a son together. So prayers go out to that young man as well, as he lost both his parents in 1 year. That's really tough to go through. But we always have D'Angelo's music, and I'm glad that he gave us some great music. It's music that you can, I don't know, you can sit there and listen to with your significant other. You can just sit back and kind of vibe and read a book to. You can smoke a J to it if that's what you want to do, or sip on some brown liquor or something like that. Or he just was a really cool artist, man, and he's gonna be missed. And he probably has a lot of music in the vault that didn't get released. But I'm always skeptical of music released posthumously, almost like if he didn't want to put it out, maybe he didn't deem it was good enough. But I'd be curious what some of that music does sound like, and if it ever does get released, because I'll always take a D'Angelo project.
Yeah, no question, and that's up to the family and just the loss and the outpouring. I looked at Tyler the Creator posting about having $20 of birthday money and going to buy Voodoo, and just talking about how incredibly lucky we are at this time and place, and despite all the crazy things happening in this world right now, to have been able to have experienced his art the way that we did. Very blessed to have done such a thing. And then Questlove, remembering just so many artists, and your favorite artist to an extent too, with a lot of the mediums that we listen to in hip hop and R&B, Ross.
Sure.
What is your favorite Diane Keaton movies? Something's Gotta Give?
That's my wife's for sure. That she loves Something's Gotta Give. I feel like the
Bride.
Yeah, Father of the Bride is a classic one. I think the cliche thing would be to say one of the Godfather movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's a little bit taboo now to say you like a Woody Allen movie or you like Woody Allen project, but Annie Hall has to probably be her quintessential performance and how fantastic she was. But she was a great character actor, and she worked a lot. She worked for a long time in her career. And even like the First Wives Club, she was on. She did a hilarious episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm as well.
Yeah.
So she was fantastic, man. They don't, she's one of those artists. She started basically in the 70s, 1970, and she just worked, and she kept working, all the way up until last year. And so that's just a testament to that's just her generation. They will continue to work and put out projects and be in movies and stuff like that. So rest in peace to her. Great actress. We have lost some special people already this year, as we tend to do, unfortunately. It just really makes you kind of appreciate what we have and the people around you, and also appreciate the art that these people have left behind. And the fact that we, to your point of what Tyler Creator said, the blessing that we have now, that a lot of this stuff is so easily accessible to us. Mm-hmm. And I can get off of this in 2 minutes, and I can fire up D'Angelo's catalog, or I can go on HBO Max or any one of these streamers, and I can start watching some of these Diane Keaton movies as well. That's awesome.
I could do it too. Yeah, I mean, at your fingertips, it's unbelievable. With Diane Keaton, I think, just effortlessly, just funny, and her spirit just really came through in the camera too, or on the screen, I should say. But yeah, big loss for that comedy community. I saw Steve Martin and Martin Short cheersing her, and and a bunch of great remembrances. But we can't end on a somber note, Ross. We will. I mean, we got to talk about Task at length. I'm very behind, but of all the things we're watching now, it is spooky season. I feel like I am getting in the spirit of it. I'm like reading a book about vampires in the 1800s, and then I'm watching Monster, which is just very, very messed up and crazy. Maybe not good to watch, and psychologists are saying if you're enjoying that, something's wrong with you. But damn it, it's on. But I love a spooky season. I know this is your time of year, Ross, big horror guy.
Yep, it sure is. It's my time of year. I love it. I really revert back to the classics this time of year. I've already watched Halloween 2 times, and you start to kind of think about even like, I'll go back into the vault and find The Exorcist. I love going on Shudder on a Saturday night and finding some random independent horror movie that I've never seen before and stuff like that. So I do love this time of year. Task is absolutely fantastic. Episode 6 just premiered this past Sunday, and it was a action-packed episode, and it leads us to the finale this Sunday coming up. And everything about it has been terrific. It's from the creator of Mare of Easttown, which was another terrific show based in Pennsylvania that had Kate Winslet as the lead of that, and Mark Ruffalo has been fantastic on the show, great cast as well. So I'm a little sad that we're only 1 episode away and Task is over. But to your point, we've got some scary movies and stuff like that and content to get you through. Maybe if I'll think about it, I'll come up with like my 5 best, my 5 favorite scary movies to stream for next week. And
we need it.
Absolutely, man.
I like it. And I got to catch up on Task. Maybe that's what's in store for the evening. We're continuing to celebrate Bears win. I will say thanks to everybody for watching, listening in at Second City Gridiron for all your Bears news as the shows roll on later this week. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Spotify, iTunes, like, subscribe, tell some friends. I'm at the Real Evan Mac. Ross is at Ross Reed. What is your prediction for Bears Saints on Sunday when we're both be there? We'll do the 4 beer, 4 hot dog challenge throughout the quarters.
I'll do that. You gotta do 4 each quarter, like 4?
Yeah. No, 1 each quarter. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
that's like the 9 beers and 9 innings. 9 beers, 9 hot dogs, 9 innings. This is significantly easier.
Much easier. I can do that easily.
We can save it for Baltimore too if you want.
That's also very true. I'm also in for that too. I got the Bears 31. I got the Saints 17. I think the Bears will win pretty convincingly in this football game. Hopefully they do. And I think the offense continues to build and they start to fire on all cylinders going forward here.
I like that. I can't pick the Bears to lose in this game. The Saints have put up some points, so I feel like they'll put up 20, but I want the Bears to get up there. I'll say 32-20 Bears. And they get a win, and the streak goes to 4.
Yes, sir.
Let's go, man. For now, thanks again, everybody. Have a great week. We will talk to you soon. We say deuces. Be good to each other out there. So long.
Peace.